Mom and Dad, are you ready?
Today's word is stupendous.
You need some encouragement.
Stupendous marriage encouragement.
You need some inspiration.
I was a little embarrassed. It was funny because I don't embarrass easily, but I was like, oh my gosh, the pastor just said that. But why wouldn't he?
You're listening to the Stupendous Marriage Show
With our friends Stu and Lisa Gray.
Oh, loves that word. Stupendous.
The Stupendous Marriage Show.
Well, hello, it's a Stupendous Marriage Show. I'm Stu Gray.
Hey, I'm Lisa Gray.
How you doing?
I'm good.
What? Are you laughing? What? What did I do?
Are you ready? And I'm like, yeah. And then this pressure came on of like, I can no longer cough or sniffle. And then I'm like,
I know, it's like you're thinking about it and then you're like,
yeah.
Being in radio for 20 years, that's exactly what you do. There are two steps. You have the on-off switch, and then you have the literal turning up the microphone so you can be heard over the airwaves, right? Mm-hmm. And so I know I did. You turn on the microphone, make sure the microphone is turned down, and you go, all this crazy stuff before you actually turn the microphone on, and then you sound all wonderful on the radio. So just know that a lot of DJs do that whole thing, so you're okay.
I can't imagine. I would be terrified that I messed up and I was actually live and didn't realize I was live and be like picking my nose and then somebody could hear it. I mean,
the stories.
I'm sure.
Oh, the stories. Yes, yeah.
So we have a pretty exciting week coming up.
We do. It's our anniversary week. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So it's 15 this year on Friday.
Of being married.
Yay.
Which I knew it was coming, but I kind of forgot it was coming. And, our anniversary, we've just never been a big anniversary day, gotta just go do something crazy wild. We're just not, we kind of, I don't know, we're almost anti-celebration, just on one day type people. And so this one being, kind of a significant number. It's those big ones like the 10 and 15 and 20. And I think in my head, I had great intentions of doing something really cool on our 15th. And then I looked up and went, oh, that's next week. So, yeah. So I even said to you today before lunch, I was like, so are we doing something this weekend? Because, again, it's just if we can get dinner out, we're good. It doesn't have to be all that.
I know. I think that's kind of the benefit and the drawback of our relationship. We were talking about that this morning, actually. We're such good friends. We enjoy each other's company. We talk to each other all the time about all sorts of stuff. It's nothing's off limits. It's just kind of what's out there. But we also are it's like parents, and we are friends. We're also business partners. And obviously there's passion involved and there's romance involved and all of that is there, but we default to friendship. Mm-hmm. So we don't necessarily, we're good friends, so we're going to go hang out. We're going to go have dinner. We're going to have a good time together. But it's not like fireworks and glam and glitz and woo! It's just yeah, it's awesome. I think we should celebrate it. And I know a couple years ago, we even talked about it on the show that we were going to renew our vows and things like that. And then that didn't quite happen. And so we've talked about that renewing this year. And so maybe we will at some point, not that our vows have gone away or anything like that. And that's a cool dream. And a lot of people do that. But dollars and cents are not quite here for all of that right now, too. You know what I mean? We have to consider that.
And time, because I was like, oh, wow, our anniversary is in a couple weeks. I thought about that a couple weeks ago. And I was like, well, I guess we're not doing that this time because there's no way we could plan it that fast, and which is completely fine. I know it will happen when it's supposed to, and the reason I guess in my heart that I wanted to do that is because I feel like we are such different people than we were 15 years ago.
That's true.
In our walks, in our spiritual walks with the Lord, I feel like we have grown up so much, and yet we still have so far to grow. And just wanting to, in front of family and friends, and be able to just rededicate our marriage. So I think we're now looking at maybe the 20th year. In 5 years, maybe we can start planning.
17th.
Yeah.
23rd.
I don't think you do the odd numbers.
Oh, come on. See, that way, that would make it different. That would make it unique.
Okay, so my question for you, and I don't know the answer to this. So I know there's the silver and the gold and the bronze. Do you have any idea 15?
What, 15? I have no idea.
We should probably at least
paper. I'm
paper.
Pewter. Stuffed animals. I really don't know. I have no idea.
That is so. I don't either. I saw the other day that one of my friends was having her anniversary, and I don't even remember what it was, but it was like a 20, a 30, a 40
Like
or something.
golden is 50, isn't it?
I think so.
Maybe we'll put it in the show notes because we don't know right now.
No, we don't.
Now I want to go look it up.
Yes.
We've got an email coming up from onair@stupendousmarriage.com. We're glad you're here.
Congratulations, you've got mail.
You know, we talk a lot about you sending us an email, but we'd like to send you an email too. If you want to be encouraged in your marriage, every week I send out a Saturday Reads email of things that I found about marriage and life and family and sometimes some odd things too. But if you want to subscribe to our email, stupendousmarriage.com/subscribe. Totally free. Here's the email for today from onair@stupendousmarriage.com. Hey, Stu and Lisa, been listening for about a month now. I binge listen when I'm at work, almost caught up. I'm on episode 35 going backwards. Awesome. I love the show. Your advice has helped me in many ways. I feel happier, have a more positive outlook on marriage. My question today is, you've talked about how growing up we were always taught sex is bad, don't do it. How do we now teach our kids that sex is great, but only in marriage? I feel like if you tell them it's great, it's going to make them want to do it. How do you make it a positive thing without seeming like you're okaying it outside of marriage? Thanks.
Man, this is a hard one. I know we have not quite navigated this road yet ourselves and have been doing some research and really trying to figure out how to do this well, because I do feel like in our marriage, when we first started out, I really unconsciously felt some of this because I had been taught so much as a kid that not just even like the act of intercourse being inappropriate.
Yeah, sure.
But a man's penis, like that's not something you play with. It's dirty. It's
outside
foreseen.
of marriage.
Well, I was never taught necessarily outside of marriage. That's the
just
point.
in general.
Just in general,
Right.
as a girl, it was like, I have an older brother and, you don't ever want to see him naked. You don't ever want to touch somebody else. Like, it makes sense, especially in the age that I grew up in, because things were starting to come to light of where people had done stuff. And so everybody your private parts are so private and you're supposed to keep them private and other people's private parts are supposed to be private, And
Yeah.
so I was never really taught that changes and that shifts should happen and that your spouse's private parts are still private, but at the same time, there's a part to your relationship that you should be comfortable with them and them being naked and you being naked. So again, when I read this email, I'm like, I don't know if I have a good answer for this because I feel like we're still navigating this as parents, trying to figure out how to present it in a way that we set our kiddo up to succeed in this area of his future marriage.
You have to think about the development of your child too. I think something you hit on right away is using real words for body parts. Not calling them crazy things, but penis and vagina and breasts and butt or backside or what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is posterior? No, we don't ever use posterior. But
I don't know what it is, the technical term.
Using real words for those areas, I think, starts a conversation young. Mm-hmm. And don't be afraid to answer questions about things. Our son doesn't necessarily ask questions and hasn't asked a whole lot yet.
I think that also has to do with the fact he's an only child.
Right.
And he doesn't have a brother or a sister that he's seen them being naked and being like, why are they different or why do they have the same thing as me? And so I definitely think he is much more naive than a lot of kiddos his age, which I love and want to really keep as long as is appropriate. But yeah, I think that's part of it is figuring out what's right for your kid.
Guilt and shame doesn't work. It doesn't work in real life. It doesn't work in talking about sex. I think that when you start to feel bad about sex, but also about yourself, you tend to want to hide things. And there was something you said in your email is, hey, if I tell them it's great, it's going to make them want to do it. Well, maybe not. But if you give the right value to what God has created in marriage, man, this is amazing. Sex is wonderful. And it's this great gift that you get to decide to do with your spouse at some point. And it is wonderful. And it really draws you together intimately. And it's an overflow of the intimacy and the friendship and the wonderful things that you have together. And this thing that you have, your virginity, is this amazing gift that you can give to your spouse on your wedding night and beyond, and you make it like, wow, this is so awesome, and you're going to love it, and it's going to be great. And remember, this is a gift. I think you can do both. I don't think you have to go, this is horrible, this is bad. And that's kind of different than what I was given. It's like, man, you don't do this after, you don't touch yourself, you don't touch anybody else, you don't, just what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And you wait for marriage, wait for marriage, wait for marriage. Our friend Sheila over at To Love, Honor, and Vacuum has written about this, talking a little bit about the purity movement and the purity rings that are given out. And she really goes into it very well. But I think she was kind of disappointed because with that movement, you've got this purity ring, right, saying you're going to stay pure until you're married, implying that you're not pure after you're married.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, wow, our purity isn't based on the sex that we have or are not having in or out of marriage. Our purity is based on Jesus. Our purity is based on what he did on the cross, the sins of mine and everyone else that he put on his back and took for us to the grave and then was raised again. And that's where purity is based. She really goes into that very well. I will link to some of that as well. Maybe that's something to think about.
And I think, honestly, having good conversations at the appropriate time, because I do think that there's different levels to the talk about being intimate with someone else. There's it's a special thing, it's a present, it's something that you should keep and hold on to be able to give as a gift to your future spouse once you get married. But then I think at some point in time, you have to, as your kid gets more mature and old enough, talk about even the act of it and how to be comfortable. I think that's where a lot of parents stop. They have the conversation about, again, growing up, I had the conversation or was told that people have private parts and it should stay private and you shouldn't be touching anybody else and you should not let anybody touch you. And that was fine. But at no point in time did they talk about, but when you get married, it's okay. And then on top of that, when you get married, like understanding about being sexual and wanting to be open to explore and making it fun. Like, I'll never forget, we had a pastor of ours years ago, and he was praying for this couple who were getting married. And we were all as a group surrounding them with our hands, hands laid on them, praying for them. And it blew me away because he started praying that they would just have amazing sex life. I was a little embarrassed. It was funny because I don't embarrass easily, but I was like, oh my gosh, a pastor just said that. But why wouldn't he? And afterwards, I really thought about it and I was like, man, I want that prayer for everybody I know that's married. I want that prayer for myself, for my parents, for my kids. Everybody who is married and in a relationship with their spouse, an intimate relationship, I want that for them to be able to have a really wonderful experience in that intimate place with their spouse. And again, it just shows how I was raised and the fact that I just didn't quite understand how the Lord sees being intimate with your spouse.
I think that's good. I think the difficulty in today's culture is instant gratification. We have everything we want within a device and microwave and fast and now. And that can be taught not about sex. That needs to be a life lesson, delayed gratification, because there's nothing wrong with patience. There's nothing wrong with waiting for something. There's nothing wrong with not getting what you want right now. And in our culture, that's not celebrated. Neither is taking responsibility. So delayed gratification, personal responsibility. There's something about waiting for something that makes it special and unique and important. If you save up for the car, you save up for the big thing that you want to buy, it's more special because it took you a while to get there. And then it's like, oh, look what I have. Look, and you tell the story about it. It took me 5 years to save up for this car and it's amazing. And it's got one tire that's a different color. And, I love it because, it's green on the inside, but red on the outside. And you tell the story of the times that it took to get there, and it's more special. You give what we Christians call testimony. It's our story of what God has done. And now that we are here, that delayed gratification, it makes it special and unique and a wonderful thing to enjoy together and be able to not necessarily tell others about, but really be a gift between a husband and a wife.
Part of the question that she asked was, I feel like if you tell them it's great, it's going to make them want to do it. I think if you frame it around, it is great in marriage, it is God ordained, anointed in marriage and outside of marriage is not as positive, I think that could definitely help for them to want to not go out and do it immediately. And I honestly don't know that I knew the seriousness of it. And I'm not talking about getting pregnant. That's what was our era. Our era, because now so many people get pregnant out of wedlock. But our era was you didn't want to go get a girl pregnant. Girls didn't want to go get pregnant. It's not even about that. It's about making it something more significant, less worldly, more eternal to your kiddos so that they want to do it. Yes, they're excited about doing it, but they want to do it in a way that is a good way, that's going to bring a positive outcome, that's going to be just a good thing for their life and not something, I don't know, man, I'm telling you, I'm really nervous about navigating this road ourselves because I do want to do it well.
Sure. And
as a parent, I do want to explain it to our son in a way that he gets the significance of it and he wants to stay pure until marriage. I don't want him to do it or stay pure to make us happy. I want it to be because in his
he's got
heart,
the personal conviction.
Yep, that's my desire for him.
Absolutely.
And then once he is married, to be able to fully embrace it.
Absolutely. And, we're not poo-pooing sin because sex outside of marriage is sin, whatever that looks like in whatever context. And we like to prioritize sins. This is the most problematic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we make a list.
Mm-hmm.
And in our worldly, earthly bodies and minds, we think this one's worse than that one and this one's worse than that one. But they're all sin. Yes, the Bible does say that when you have sex outside of marriage, you're sinning against your body because you're connecting with someone one-to-one.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something you have to think about. That is something you have to talk about. That is something you have to acknowledge. We're not saying not to acknowledge that. But I think a lot of times teaching sits right there on that. Don't sin, and you're connecting yourself with one person, and it's always the negative that is taught instead of the positive beauty, wonder, and greatness that is sex inside of marriage. And I think we're all, as the Big C Church, trying to get better at that, some better than others. We are still processing and thinking through this for ourselves. So, forgive our conversation if it sounds like we're just trying to come up with these answers because we don't have them all yet, and we're actually talking about these things with our son.
Man, if you have walked this journey with your kiddos and you have some advice for us or for this other listener, we would love to hear from you. You can call us on our phone number, leave a voicemail at 615-592-1060, or you can also email us at onair@stupendousmarriage.com because obviously we're not the only ones walking this, and we can all use some advice from people who are further down the road than us.
Speaking of advice from people further down the road than us, I posed this question to our friends at the Christian Marriage Bloggers Association. That's a group of people who actually minister to marriages in various ways. They're bloggers and writers, speakers, pastors, counselors. And Dr. Jessica McLeese, she's a licensed clinical psychologist and sex therapist. She writes at befullywell.com. She had a thought about our question from today on teaching kids about sex.
What you're doing now is you're preparing your kids and your teenagers for sex in marriage. So there are boundaries around the sexual relationship. Now, oftentimes in church, we talk about don't have sex until you're married because it's a sin. And when we do that, we neglect to tell people that sex is actually a beautiful picture of who God is. So we see his creativity, we see his beauty in that, and when we learn to really give of ourselves for our partner, we also see the self-sacrificial nature of Christ. But in that, there are boundaries. Now, when you're single, there are boundaries because sex is reserved for marriage. But in marriage, there's still boundaries. So we can't do anything that's degrading or humiliating to our partner. We can't do anything that hurts them. We can't do anything that's going to bring someone into the marriage bed other than our spouse, and that includes fantasy life. So you're actually already practicing what it looks like to have sex in marriage. It's just before you get to have that behavior. So I would encourage you, do talk to your kids about sex. Tell them that it's beautiful. Tell them that it is reflective of God himself. And then also tell them that there are boundaries now. So they wait until marriage to have sex. And then one day there'll be boundaries inside of their marriage relationship as well, because sex should always be reflecting God, and it should always be reflecting his loving nature towards us. So I hope that helps answer your question. God bless you.
Man, that is some great thoughts. I really appreciated her calling in. There's so many people out there that can benefit from learning how to do this well and talk to our kiddos in a positive way.
Again, find Dr. Jessica McLeese at befullywell.com. Our comment and question line, 1-615-592-1060. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, we would love to hear from you. Maybe even if you have a prayer request for your marriage, we might be able to share those on the show, and the Stupendous Marriage community can come together and pray for your marriage. If you want to do that, that would be awesome. 1-615-592-1060. I think that's it for this week. See ya.
Bye. Yeah.
Like the show? Like the show.
Yeehaw.
Share the podcast. Tell another couple.
Hold on. Hold up.
Can you speak normally, please?
I am. What is your problem?
Ready?
Sure.
Or not.
Um.
And some not, you know. So.
Well, or you can also email us at onair@stupendousmarriage.com, at onair@stupendousmarriage.
The new listener comment and prayer line. Hey, if you need prayer for your marriage, we would love for you to leave a... Yeah, thanks again, Doug. Yeah, thanks again, Jessica. That was awesome. Awesome.
Okay, let's start over. Yeah.
Like the show? Like the show. Share the podcast. Tell your married friends.